Welcome back, guys. It is a glorious day here on the Glorious Sunrise podcast. My name is Kevin. I am joined by my partner in crime and better looking half, John. John, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing great now, man. Woo.
I got to set you up to feel good, man. Yeah.
No, man.
That's what we do here, man. We are a beacon of positivity, mostly towards each other and sometimes the community. And that's all we got to do.
Yeah.
Guys, welcome to the podcast. Last week, we did kick off season 2 of the Glorious Sunrise podcast with a bit of a channel update to give you guys a little bit of an overview of kind of what we're thinking for the early part of 2023, some of the new steps we're taking, some of the new content ideas that we have that we would like to start implementing. I hope you guys are stoked for that. I think it's going to be a really good time. I know, John, you've got a lot of really fun ideas for the live streaming, including what if live streams where you create cards, stuff like that. I think it's going to be a really good time, guys. So definitely look forward to that. Also, we've got a lot of front end stuff that I have to mention. A couple things. One, we have a 10,000 subscriber giveaway going on right now on the YouTube channel. So if you are watching this or you've seen some of our gameplay and you're not already subscribed, please make sure you do so, because once we hit that 10,000 sub goal, we are going to be choosing 3 random lucky subscribers to win some awesome prizes. That's going to include like a draft booster of whatever the latest standard set is. We've got some altars to throw in there. And then John's actually put up a wonderful secret layer that's going to be really cool. There it is. Yes. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. It's going to be sick, guys. So definitely make sure you subscribe. Additionally, we've got a lot of new products over in our store on the website, itresolvesmtg.com. There's a link down below. New shirts, new hats, new cool stuff. If you want to check all that out, please feel free to do so. It also goes to help support the channel, so we would really appreciate that. I think that's everything. I think we got all the front end stuff out of the way. Did I miss anything, John?
I can't think of anything, man. I know we talked last week we're going to go into this hot and heavy, and then we both just had the week explode on us.
Dude, this week has been ridiculous. But I am excited.
There's going to be content all the time.
Yeah,
and then we both were like, family and work and all kinds of stuff, man.
Dude, it's been ridiculous.
No, I'm looking forward to the end of February, really. Well, February and into the end of February, because you touched on all of it. I mean, we got the new All Will Be One coming out, and the new streams and stuff by the end of the month. I'm looking forward to it, bro. I think it's going to be a blast.
I hope so. Yeah. If I missed anything, correct me in the comment section. I don't know. It's going to be a blast, guys. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up. And of course, with Phyrexia All Will Be One, we will be gearing a couple of the upcoming podcast episodes specifically towards the new set, which we're really excited about. And so if you guys want to have more of a deep dive into not just some of the specific cards, which I think will be one of the episodes that we do, just picking some of our favorites, but we also will hopefully be able to build some decks that you guys can maybe kick off with and things like that. So definitely look forward to that. But today, this is our first, I think it's safe to say, our first challenge video podcast-ish thing. I don't really know what to call it. At least for the podcast, I think that's fair to say.
Yeah. Because I mean, if you count, well, it is what it is. That whole whole series was a challenge, but
a blast.
Yeah, man, I had a blast with it. But this is our first. Let's drop the parameters of a deck build and see what we come out with. So neither one of us know what we actually built. I kind of want to get that in there, because if we come up with the same thing,
that just goes to show that it's good that we're working together.
But I'm hoping we came up with something completely different.
I have high hopes that we did. I definitely do. But guys, so to put some context to what this episode is, and first and foremost, I want to encourage everybody else, set this challenge for yourself and do it. It is so fun. You will lose a lot. But I think it was fun. John probably thought it was less fun, but I love this kind of stuff. So basically, this episode, I'm gonna take full responsibility, whether that be good or bad. This idea was one that I had when we were starting to plan this whole season, and it was kind of first on the list as one that I really wanted to do, which was to set a challenge for us in the deck building process. Put a deck together that met those requirements. In this case, we could only use 1 mana cards. It had to be historic. It did not need to be ranked. We just played best of 1 historic. and we could only use 1 mana cards. Now that's not, I don't know, we didn't really specify like 1 and X. I did not use any X spells or anything like that. It was just 1 mana spells. And we had to go on and see how, play a handful of games and see what the win rate was and just have some fun with it. And so we, as John said, we both build our own decks, completely separate. We're going to overlay some gameplay and some deck lists for you guys as we talk about this, if you happen to be watching on YouTube. And yeah, I'm a little stoked to see what you came up with. I'm not going to lie, John.
Bro, it was so bad, man. So bad. No, it was a fun concept. It really was, but frustrating, man. Because I really had this in my mind. Oh, well, I can do this. I'm going to build on, certain triggers and stuff like that. Yeah, no, if you're playing life by the drop, which is kind of what I've called this, is life by the drop. It's 1 drop.
Yeah.
I found out some interesting things as I went along. So the deck I started with is nothing like the deck that I ended up with.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because I actually, when we first had this challenge idea, I put together, and I'll go ahead and say this is not the build that I ended up with. We're going to go into the deep dives of each of our builds and just kind of take turns talking about them. But the initial deck I built when I first came up with this challenge, which was months ago, was an Is It Delver deck. Which I think is a relatively obvious place to go, right? Like that's a perfectly reasonable deck. You can get a lot of good, very cheap abilities, and then just basically tempo out the opponent with some cheap stuff. And it did work, actually. I made the deck. I put together some content with it just for the fun of it, but then I ended up scrapping that idea entirely after I ended up building the deck that I built, which I'm way happier with the one that I ended up with. But we can jump right in if you want. I can start with mine. Yeah, no, absolutely. But to that point, when I first started it, I was actually just thinking red. Red was easy. Yeah.
1 drop red, haste, go, slam. Yeah. And then I was like, it's a little too easy. So let me go ahead and try and force a little bit, more of a challenge to myself on it. And man, I'm kicking my own ass. So, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well,
man.
So I tried a couple different things, the most obvious being Delver, like I said. But I ended up playing a deck a couple weeks ago, actually, that I really liked. And I knew if I made this a 1 mana deck, it was going to lose some really crucial pieces. However, a lot of the deck would scale as the game progressed. And that'll make a lot of sense when I tell you that it was Jund Death Shadow. And the reason that works, in my view, or in my head when I was building it, I was like, this is totally great. Because as I'm losing the game, I'll actually get a stronger creature for only 1 mana, and I might be able to just sneak out a win. And so that was basically the whole thought process. Now, again, the deck itself loses a lot of really crucial pieces that are generally like the big win cons. In particular, Temur Battle Rage, which is like one of the biggest ways to just kind of instant win in that deck. You don't get that. And so it made it a little trickier to actually find a way to finish the game. But without that, you get a lot more like hand destruction, removal, protection spells, things like that to kind of keep stuff on track. So I will go ahead and throw up, a little deck overview of what I actually put together. So that way, if you happen to be watching along on YouTube, you'd be able to see it. But basically, I'm going to walk you through the step-by-step of kind of how I put this together. And John, if you've got any thoughts or anything, feel free to kind of chime in as we go along here. But I'm going to start with the creature package because that's the most obvious place to start. Death Shadow, obviously a full 4. If you don't know what this card does, it gets stronger and stronger as your life total goes down. Does kind of force you to build a bit of a suicide shell with a lot more like ping lands, a lot more life loss in the actual card selection itself, which we'll kind of see as a motif as we go through, because you do want to lose life throughout the early turns of the game, so you get a more powerful Death Shadow. Kind of a self-explanatory big beef of a card for 1 mana. Another card I threw in there, Evolved Sleeper. One of my favorite new cards. I've found this to be holding up fairly well in Historic in general. I've actually played it in a couple different builds. Part of the reason, it's a 1 mana spell that basically evolves as you go. So like if you have nothing else to do, you just pump it up, right? And so you can get a stronger and stronger creature, but technically it's only 1 mana, and so you kind of skirt around the 1 mana issue. But it also allows you for some card draw and some self-life loss with that final ability. And so in a deck where you are trying to finish the game with very cheap things, you want as many cards as possible, and so it helped to have that. And then the last one, which surprisingly might have been the best include in the deck, was Dragon's Rage Channeler, which was just a ridiculously good evasive threat. It fills the yard, and it just gives you a little bit more card selection off the top for every instant and sorcery that you're playing, which allows you a lot of like, hey, I definitely need to get rid of my opponent's thing. Let me dig a little further and a little faster. And then, of course, that flying, if you reach Delirium, was always just like, all right, see what you can do. Because if they didn't have a flyer, it was like easy game. And so that worked out really, really well. But that was the entire creature package. So thoughts? Did I miss anything, John? Did I miss any creatures that you can think of offhand?
No, not with the 1-drops. I mean, if we had went 2-drops, I'd say Shambling Ghast and Deadly Dispute have to absolutely be in there.
Yes.
But we only went to 1-drops. The other thing I like about the Evolved Sleeper is the possibility to be drawing cards, and doesn't it have life loss off of that as well?
It does. It loses 1 life
loss
off of that.
So it works with the shadow.
Yep.
Yeah.
The fact that it just scaled up throughout the game too, it kind of gave you an extra win condition. All the creatures were kind of a win condition on their own, right? So like obviously shadow represents the most damage, but it's also the easiest to block. Fatal Push is popular, so like you knew that was going to happen, things like that. And so to have a couple of extra kind of finishers in the game seemed really helpful. So that was the creature package. I'm going to jump to the removal package because this was pretty straightforward. I went full 4 on both of these. Again, 1 mana is all we had. I went 4 Fatal Push and 4 Play with Fire. Pretty straightforward. Again, the Play with Fire being able to just shoot anything was really helpful because that actually works to basically hit your own life total if you really needed to, just to be able to get a Death Shadow down. Thankfully, that didn't ever come to that, but it certainly could have. And then, of course, Fatal Push just being a really efficient way of dealing with things was always good. There isn't really much, I should say, in the way of triggering the Revolt on Fatal Push. That was the only like major downside that I could think of with throwing that in there, but it's just so efficient that I felt like it had to be. So that was kind of it there. I'm going to lump in the next couple cards as well. Blossoming Defense as a 2-of and Snakeskin Veil as a 2-of. I did a 2-2 split there just to spread things out a little bit so you don't have just a full 4 of one card and then they get, for whatever reason, you have to worry about those kinds of things. Both of those are just in there for hexproof, essentially. The Snakeskin Veil obviously gives you that counter as well, which is really nice, but the Blossoming Defense gives you a little more instant power. And so both of them were great, both of them very useful. But that was basically the full like removal protection package, which was helpful, I think. Again, I don't know if I missed anything major. Is there anything you can think of, John?
No, nothing off the top of my head. I like the Snakeskin Veil. We'll see.
Oh no. Okay.
So, no, man, I like it. It sounds solid. That was one thing that I didn't have a lot of for the colors that I was picking was removal, man. It was brutal. Yeah. It had me wanting to go almost to a Jund package, but I figured I'd squeak this one out. Interesting.
I'm curious.
Yeah. Okay. We'll get there.
We'll get there. I'm very curious. A little hint there of what may be to come. So the next big portion of this deck, which I found super useful just in general, was just a massive hand destruction package. So 4 Thoughtseize was an obvious choice. It hits basically any non-land card in the hand, deals 2 life to you, which is great. And so that was like a gimme. I only put 2 Inquisition in there only because it doesn't deal too much. Like it's not going to deal you any damage, but it still is efficient and it still removes things. The other card I put in was 4 Mind Spike, which is another 1 mana hand destruction spell. If it doesn't hit anything, you actually draw a card, and you still take 2 damage. So like it kind of does almost everything you want in this deck, which is either remove a potential instant or sorcery from the opponent, give you a card, and then again, you just take 2 life. So it's like man, what else do you want? And so that was a perfect include there. That's a lot of hand destruction. It was a full 10 spells dedicated to hand destruction. But seeing as we're 1 mana only, it felt like the most efficient way to preemptively deal with more powerful things from the opponent and still tie into the game plan. And so it worked really well for us. Last 2 cards here that are non-lands. First is Faithless Looting. I needed a card draw. I did have a couple of other card draw spells. Again, Mind Spike gets you there. Evolve Sleeper eventually gets you there. But that was kind of it. The Delirium off of the Channeler was always great as well, but you want to fill the yard to help get there. And surveilling and hitting a Faithless Looting really allowed that to happen like super quickly. So you were able to really trigger that Delirium, get a really powerful spell there very quickly, deal that damage in an evasive way, and then there wasn't much the opponent could do. Also, the fact that it's replayable just gave you further options later on down the road. If you really needed to dig, you've got that flashback you can use. So that was just an easy one. And then the last card was a little bit of a replacement for the Temur Battle Rage, which is Ancestral Anger, which is kind of the 1 mana version, so to speak. It's like a really not great version, but it works. It gives you a little bit of a power boost. It gives trample and it draws a card. So does basically everything we wanted here. Again, if you've got a really powerful shadow, giving it trample and a little extra power boost, plus hopefully the possibility of drawing into more stuff. I mean, for 1 mana, you can't ask for much more. And so that worked out really, really well. The last thing I'll mention also is just in the land slot. I chose a very heavy and like kind of pingy land base, including shock lands, but then also a lot of the pain lands. And then in addition, a mana confluence, which was kind of interesting because again, it fixed your mana really efficiently. And because you've got, 3 different colors in this deck, that seemed fairly important. But it also pings you for 1 every time you use it, which was great. I mean, that's exactly what we needed. And so between that and the shock lands, I was able to balance out that a little bit throughout the games and not take too much damage, but also have enough self-inflicting damage that I was able to get that Death Shadow down and do some work. So that was the deck. I think that was everything. That was a lot. But John, obvious things that I might have missed, because I feel like you're out of the 2 of us. I feel like you're the creative deck builder here. So I'm leaning on you. Yeah.
Injund. 1 drops. Well, sounded like you were doing all right with what your game plan was, man.
It worked out okay.
Maybe one thing just to help you. I don't know. I don't know. Because we had no idea going into this. So I didn't go back and curiously flip through. I was just curious
if any obvious things came to mind.
No, honestly, man. My mind's a blank on it. So I would say 1 card to kind of tip my hand a little bit. 1 card that I found out really useful at a 1 drop is Abundant Harvest.
Yeah.
Just to help, find lands or find a non-land if I needed to, depending on where I was at on board state and stuff like that. But man, black is such a good color.
Black is so good, dude.
I wish I would have went Jund and I was 1 color away. There's another tip of the hand.
Yeah, exactly.
No, man, it sounds interesting. I'm going to go back and watch this and watch the gameplay.
It was fun.
Yeah. No, I like it, man. I like it. And I'm sure other people, now that you know that what it is, and I will too, probably go back in here and sort out historic 1 drops through Jund, and I'll be like, oh man,
obvious. I'm sure there was something. Yeah.
I mean,
well, man. And so I want to kind of like sum this up through the games that I played, because I just took some quick notes as I was going along, so nothing spectacular, but we do have the gameplay. I don't know if it's been playing or not at this point because I haven't really edited this yet, but it will be there. So to be clear, I played 2 games that were not in the recording, and that was kind of as I was building the deck. So those were things where I was just kind of testing stuff and then potentially swapping out cards until I got to the final list. I actually won one of them, which was pretty amazing. The first one I lost, it was Mono White Angels. The flyers were so tricky for me to deal with, and they were offsetting so much of the life that I was dealing to them that it was just like, all right, well, I'm basically getting nowhere. And so that one felt terrible. There wasn't much I could do about it. The game 2 was actually Esper Control, and I won. And I was kind of amazed because I really thought that was a matchup where like this is just going to get wrecked, right? Like they've got board sweepers, they've got anything they need to deal with all my stuff and efficiently deal with it because it's Esper. So they have the black in there with their own fatal pushes and things like that, which hits everything. And so I was really thinking I was going to lose that game, but I actually won it. I'm sure that was down to luck. Nice. But I did record 5 games total. The first 3 I lost. And so the first one was Gruul Legends. They outpowered me super, super quick. There wasn't much I could do about that. They just had really fast and powerful threats and ways to protect them. Slivers was the second. Slivers was interesting. So I was doing well against Slivers. I was like maintaining fairly well because a lot of their early game things I was able to handle with the fatal pushes. I was able to pick apart the hand a little bit, so it really wasn't that bad of a start. They ripped a Sliver Hive Lord or whatever it was to give everything indestructible, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, once Sliver starts doing Sliver things, good luck. You
are shot in the foot. So that was a good game up until that point. I did face another mono white life gain, albeit not Angels. And it was a much closer matchup. It was very Soul Warden heavy. It was a lot of ground, heavy ground stuff. And I did okay until they got kind of some of the life gain combo-y stuff out there. And I was like, there's not much I could do now. And so they were able to get off just an easy win after that. The last 2 games, though, I did win. And you'll be interested to know the next one was also a control deck. It was Is It Control. They did have All Runs Epiphany. They had Goldspan Dragon. They had all kinds of powerhouse stuff. And we were just faster. And it was pretty awesome. Yep. And then the last one, I got my revenge on Slivers. They did not draw the Hive Lord. And so I was able to just annihilate them the last game. And I was so stoked because I was like, this is such an annoying deck to play against. And I'm over here with like this silly little challenge deck. Like maybe I can get a win. And I killed Slivers. I was so stoked.
Nice.
So ending record all told, I won 3 games and lost 4. As far as the video itself goes, that again probably has been up for a little while, I got 2 wins and lost 3. So yeah, that's the deck. It was fun.
Very cool, man. Yeah, your win percentage is way better than mine, bro.
Well, I'm excited to hear, John. How did it go?
Man, it went so bad, bro. Well, I don't know, man, because I took it into historic, non-ranked.
Yeah.
Just because I don't, and here's my thing with it, man. I get so frustrated when people.
Frustrated? No.
When people turn 1 drop Soul Warden. And it's like, why are you here? Yeah. Why are you here, man? Why are you here? So I just concede the game. I just concede the game and go on to the next one. I don't have enough. I don't have this challenge wasn't meant for lengthy matches. It was really, you got to try and output as much as possible, as quickly as possible. And I probably did a horrible job at it. It was super challenging me because my mind wants to go control. My mind wants to go into 3 colors, 2 colors. And I'm like, what kind of tricks can I do? And there wasn't a whole lot. It was just like, what can you do for the output of the damage? And so my win percentage just going into this was absolutely atrocious. It was like 30%, bro. Because I wouldn't stay in a match, man. People dropped down the channeler or something, and I was just like, I'm not even messing with you, man. What are you doing?
I love how frustrated you get, man. It's a blast.
It was tilting, man. It was tilting, but we did get some game. I mean, we got like 5 wins out of it, but I was constantly tuning this thing as I was learning with it.
Sure, yeah.
So, do you want me to go into the deck build?
Yeah, give me the
Are
deck
we ready
build.
for that? Okay,
I'm so curious.
I'm real curious. So, but before we move on to mine, your lands. Did you put any creature lands in there?
I did not.
You did not.
I thought about it, but I did not.
Ass, dude.
But I intentionally, no, that's smart. So I intentionally didn't because I was pretty all in on the shadow plan, right?
Mhm.
Like I kind of just wanted max, like ping myself or shock myself as they come down. And so manlands were a really good idea. I should have had at least one or two in there, but like I chose not to because I was so all in on the shadow plan that I figured, we'll skip it. I also didn't want tapped lands,
Right.
because of the fact that, you know, I'm trying to not haste out, but like get some stuff down really, really quickly and then be able to maximize all of the mana, because everything's a 1-drop. So you're kind of wanting to get to the point where you're playing extra spells every turn. And to your point, not get to the long game if you can help it. And so I figured the manlands were like, a little bit too late game.
I got you. So I did. We'll go through the deck list, but it was super frustrating, man. Okay, so like I don't even remember how many games I got recorded. Was it 4 or 5? What did I take? 4.
Yeah, you said
so
4.
So like 2 out of 3 of the games before my last game were just turn 2 and they would just like quit. It was like, I was like, okay, I know, I see the damage is going through, bro. I know if you don't have anything in hand, just quit. I mean, I couldn't get anybody to stay on it. So the games were either really fast or I was going up against something super competitive and historic. And I was like, I'm not even recording this. But the last game, everything finally kind of did what I was shooting for. So with that, landfall.
You went landfall?
I went landfall and gruel with a Coom Hellhound.
Oh, dude, good call.
And I've got 4 of the Hellhounds. I put in Fervent Champions because everybody loves him.
Oh, for sure. So good.
Such a troll card.
Such a troll card.
I wanted blocker, and since removal isn't real heavy and 1-drops for red and green, I put the Fang of Shigeki in there as a 4/of for Death Touch.
Yeah.
And then with the landfall possibilities in that, I had to use Elvish Reclaimer.
Right.
So
that makes
Elvish
sense. Reclaimer,
you pay 2, tap it, sacrifice a land, search your library for a land card, and then put it onto the battlefield, tap, and then shuffle. So I never got the Reclaimer and the Hellhound on the board at the same time. So it never worked like I wanted it to.
Yeah.
And as I progressed through these games, man, I was really wanting to do, counters and counter heavy. And sure. I'm sure in the gameplay, people are going to be like, that was not in his deck list. It was not, man. Cause I can't play this game without constantly tuning a deck. My mind's just like, what can we try next? So you guys are going to see a lot of gameplay and you're going to be like, that's not even in that deck list. That's fine. Add it back in, man. So for another 1-drop, an enchantment Kumano, just for the ping of damage and the possibility of having the +1/+1 counter to a creature. For removal spells, I put in the Frostbites. I went Snowlands for the most part.
That's smart. Yeah.
Just to have the 2 damage or the 3 damage. And then I could also do landfall possibilities with Spikefield Hazard as a 1-drop.
Yeah.
And possible removal, which it worked a couple times. And then just to kind of try and throw out damage and protect creatures, Giant Growth went in as a 3/of.
Interesting choice.
+3/+3. Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, they wouldn't block these little creatures. And I was like, well,
gonna maximize it then.
Make you pay for that.
Yeah.
So did that. Did 2 of Snakeskin Veil and 2 of Tameo Safekeeping.
Okay. Yeah.
Excuse me. Just for a little bit of life gain off of Tameo Safekeeping. If it was for the +1/+1 counters, I would have kept Snakeskin Veil, but I was finding myself in situations where I was always like 1 or 2 life too far behind, and just the 2 of Tameo Safekeeping could help us out. For card draw, I put Crash Through because if we had a big drop of Landfall for the Hellhound, we wanted to give them Trample and be able to draw a card. And then to make sure that we were consistently hitting lands or other cards to help us gain value back onto the board, I put in the 4 copies of Abundant Harvest.
Okay. Yeah. So question really quick. You mentioned Crash Through. So I was actually looking at Crash Through as well because of that trample. And then, of course, the card draw is just as you mentioned. Was there, and you may not have, and that's totally fine too, I have no clue, but was there any thought given to the Ancestral Anger over the Crash Through? Because the only reason I went for the Ancestral Anger was the fact that it gave that extra little, X hit. But it was marginal. Like it wasn't that big of a deal. I was just curious if you thought about it at all or anything.
No, to be honest, it was probably just tunnel vision on my part, man.
No, totally.
I logged onto this card and I was like, I'm doing this.
Dude, I initially was like, oh, Crash Through 100%. Like that's going to be the game plan. And then I remembered Ancestral Anger was in Historic and I was like, oh, that's a little bit better.
I want to see Ancestral Anger, man. Because, okay, here it is. Okay, so for those watching that don't know, so you don't have to go look up the card, Ancestral Anger is sorcery speed as well, 1-drop red. Target creature gains trample, gets +X +0 until the end of turn, where X is 1 plus the number of cards named Ancestral Anger in the graveyard plus, and then you draw a card. Yeah, no, absolutely, 100% the better card than Crash Through.
I was just curious.
No, yeah. I would definitely going forward, I would change that up to that, but I'm never playing this crap again, bro. so you did this to me once, man. It made me so uncomfortable. I'm like, well, I can't be a control player with this, which is my natural state. You're forcing me into aggro. How can I dish out damage as quickly as possible to get the hell out of these games?
I love how upset you are about this.
Bro, it was, man.
It kind of puts a damper on us telling everybody else, hey, try this challenge. It'll be fun. Yeah, and then you're over here like, nah, fuck that. It's terrible.
No, I'm not trying. Look, it was a challenge. It was a challenge.
Yeah, well, that's the
whole part of that, the prompt was, can you win with 1-drops? And yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Will you do it consistently? No, you won't.
No.
so no,
absolutely not.
But we can, and we did. So with this package, the land has to come into play. So I did use one of on Den of the Bugbear, one of on Lair of the Hydra, and one of on Faceless Haven. Since I went to Snow package, Faceless Haven and Den of the Bugbear never came up through play to a point where they were critical to my game plan. Lair of the Hydra in the last game, that was the really good game where I'm like, oh man, this is kind of working now where I wanted it to. Did come up. And I think we had that game won, but it definitely helped push through the over the top damage. And I think they were like -5, -7 by the time I was done smashing them. We do have a bunch of snow-covered forest and snow-covered mountains, and I got a the Highland Forest for the dual land snow, but it comes in tapped, which did prove to be a problem a couple times.
Yeah.
And then I've got 4 of on Fable Passage and 2 of on Cabaretti Courtyards, just for the life gain and the double land drops. Yeah, man, it was. Yeah, it was frustrating, but that last game that I played made up for everything when I was like, oh man, okay, so it is kind of working. The only thing I didn't get to do was the Elvish Reclaimer and the Hellhound. And if that ever got kicking off, I
would have been
killer.
I don't know
what happens. But no, as I was going through, I was trying multiple different creatures and multiple different things. And it just came down to, I got to protect my creatures. I got to have the game plan to get the counters on them. And I got to keep it low to the ground and fast. So that's how I ended up with the 16 creatures with the possible 20 with Kumanu. And then the rest was protection, slight removal, early game, and then hoping that my landfall was going to kick in as quickly as possible. And it was just literally just stay low to the ground and go as fast as you possibly can.
Yeah, no, I get that. That's awesome. I love that you went landfall. I never even thought of landfall. To be clear, there were a couple like ideas that were kind of floating around when we first started talking about, bringing the podcast back, doing challenges and stuff. Obviously, we talked about Is It Delver? Never thought of Landfall. Death Shadow didn't come up until much, much later. Because again, I just wouldn't have thought of the without the Teamer Battle Rage and some of the other key pieces in the normal deck. I was like, I don't even know that you can run it. Plus, it's kind of high risk, right? Because you're like, I'm going to kill myself as close as I can to dying with only one mana spells and then hope for the best.
But I love that you did it, man, because that's so far outside the box. I wasn't even thinking that as a possibility. However, I love triggers.
Yeah. I get you.
I'm a huge fan of the Hellhound if it can stay and live. And I was just like, yeah, man, this will be fun. Why not, man? I got a possibility of punching you right in the face turn 2 if I've got it correctly. So it was fun. I mean,
some other deck ideas that I never built anything around, but did kind of cross my mind. To your point, mono red, as you mentioned, that's kind of an easy starting point. There's so many options out there for mono red. So that I felt like was kind of the easy go-to, which is exactly why I didn't go to it. The other one was mono white life gain, Soul Warden life gain, just heavy on 1-drops and trying to maximize just playing as many creatures as you can. I thought about that. I didn't go down that path because, again, I was like, that feels like a deck that you're going to get some really good early turns and then nothing ever happens because you don't have any strength behind it. And so I felt like if you're going to go that route, you probably need to bring in a different color as well, not just mono white to kind of make it worth it. And it felt a little like, I feel like I'm forcing something. And so there were some other ones that I don't remember offhand that crossed my mind when doing this whole thing. But I was like, nah, once I knew the Death Shadow plan, man. But I love the creativity behind Landfall. I never would have thought of that. That's
I would have never thought about the Shadow, but man, yeah, I did. I thought about mono red. I thought about mono white life gain. Just Sarah's Ascendant, man. Get me over 30 life and you're toast, bro.
Oh, totally.
That card alone will get you kicked out of a commander game. Don't be playing it. No, man. There were a lot of different ideas, but the same thing, man. It was a challenge. I didn't want it to just be the easy route. And we've done, I think, 3 months ago, I did a budget red build that was all, uncommon or less.
Sure.
And even when I started looking at it, I was like, man, I feel like I'm kind of just going over the same ground here a little bit. And it seems a little too easy. Let's go outside the box and see if we can make the challenge a little more harder on ourselves. And unfortunately I did that. So,
Well, I will say, as you mentioned, the idea of a challenge is to be difficult and to be a little hard pressed to make us get the win. But we did both get wins, and that was kind of fun. I will say, to your point again, it was so rewarding to finally get the wins, because I was like, I'm already starting at a disadvantage. Personally, playing a Death Shadow deck, I was a suicide deck, so I was like, all right, I'm gonna have 5 life and hope things work out, you know what I mean? And so I felt like I was on razor thin edges constantly. And when you finally do get that win, it's just like, oh man, yes, you did it.
I dig it. It was fun. It was the same though, and I kept constantly running into meta decks, and it's like, honestly, why are you in non-ranked doing this? I'm sure it was a lot of people just completing their dailies or whatever, or maybe it's just somebody trying to get a feel for the deck, whatever. But to your point, I was not satisfied until that last game. Once it's just something about putting that puzzle together. And once you see things clicking the way they're supposed to, you're like, damn, man, I got it. I got the glow, bro. I'm serious. I'm the last dragon. I got the glow.
It was a blast, dude. I do like the idea of doing more of these kind of challenge videos just every once in a while. I also think it's a real what? You don't?
Are we sure?
I do.
It's fine, man. It's fine. Yeah, I mean, it's put out the category, and we'll see where we go.
Yeah. So with that, though, that brings up a couple things. So first and foremost, again, we've already got our season planned. However, if anybody listening does have a fun little challenge for us that you would like to see us do, share it in the comment section. We'll give it a shot at the very least. If we
Emphasis on fun,
yes,
fun little challenge. Emphasis on fun,
like 0 mana spells only. No, your face. No, give us some challenges, guys. I think it's fun. I think it's a really fun idea as well for you guys to take whatever challenges we put out there and try them for yourself. Like, if you don't enjoy this kind of thing, totally get it. This was not your episode. It's fine. However, if you just want to like see if you can do it and see if you can have fun with it, you can either take the deck lists that we've created, which should be in links down below, or you can create something on your own and put something out there that you think is really fun. And so just try it. I think it's fun. I think very often people take Magic quite seriously, and I think it's fun every once in a while to remind everybody that it's a game. So add a game within the game and make it a little harder and just see if you can do it.
This made me want to dunk my head in a bowl full of ice. No, look, man.
The hate from John's side.
If you take the 1-drop challenge, or life by the drop, this is a life by the drop challenge. Here's my advice. There are reasons I didn't put like Allosaurus and ramping creatures in here is because you're a 1-drop. You're not trying to play long game. Allosaurus has no spot in this deck. You're not going to be there long enough to do anything with Allosaurus other than, not getting your green spells countered. So if you're commenting in below saying, man, why didn't you use this one? Why didn't you use that one? Where are the ramp creatures? You're playing green. Because you don't have no time.
Yeah.
When you're playing 1-drops,
you're not going to be in the game long enough.
When you're playing 1-drops, you don't have time. You're trying to just cheat out that game as quickly as possible. So,
well, and so you're exactly right. That was one reason that like elves as an example is like a terrible idea with this kind of challenge.
Yeah.
So many of the payoff elves are either not 1 mana or too expensive on the ability end of things to really make it worth it, to your point, just like the Allosaurus. And
the best elf isn't even in a 1-drop slot.
No,
and I believe it's called Collected Company. So yeah, no, I'm kidding. I had to get it in there.
It was perfect. But to that point, that was 100% the thought process behind doing such a heavy hand destruction package. The reason being, like, you are only ever going to invest 1 mana into any card that you play. So you already know that going into it. So what are the best ways to trade up in value? And to me, the first thing that came to mind was, well, if I pick apart their hand with a Thoughtseize as an example, I could take a 7 mana spell with a Thoughtseize and I only paid 1 mana and I benefit off of the life loss. So where can I swing that in my favor? And so thinking about it that way, it felt a lot more like, oh, okay, just be proactive versus trying to not even race so much. I mean, to the extent that, you do want to beat him first, obviously. And like you do want to have a powerful creature out on the board attacking every turn to finish the game quickly. But with that 1-drop slot, especially, like you kind of just start taking the next card that you think they can play and then hopefully do it again the next turn and still have a creature out on the board because it only takes a mana to do it. And it's like, all right, go for it. See if you can do anything about it. And while it never worked that perfectly, even in the ones where, I was able to get a win, that was kind of the goal, was to capitalize on that. So that was a blast, man. I know you hated it, but it was fun.
No, I mean, I didn't hate it. I just
severely disliked it to the point where I never want to do it again. No, because it was a challenge. It was just really a big pain in the ass type of challenge, though. Yeah. And maybe this is another podcast, because I'd love to talk about this. When you go into non-ranked and you hit up the meta cards and stuff like that, and you're hitting up meta decks, and it's just frustrating. But like I said, it might be people trying to figure out how to play the deck. It might be people trying to fill out their dailies because you can there. Wizards of the Coast, give us a playground where you get no rewards. Yeah.
Then that's going to be a brewer's paradise. right there.
So,
and if anybody does show up with meta in there with no rewards, then they're really trying to learn how to play that deck.
Yeah,
and I can understand that.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, let's just have a complaint episode where we complain everything. We throw all of our complaints on the table.
That's every episode,
for everybody. That's true. We do complain a lot. Mainly it's you though, John. I'm just gonna say it.
Can't keep it, man. If it goes between these two ears, I can't keep it in here. It's got to come out, man.
I get you. Well, guys, that is the 1 mana challenge. That was a blast. Again, John may not have liked it, but I did, and I hope you guys will.
I loved it, man. It was frustrating. It was interesting. It really was. The tuning is the part that I loved about it, though, and figuring out how to unlock it and just go. It was a lot of fun.
Well, guys, I encourage you all, please do try this challenge for yourselves again. It is fun. It's hard. That's the point. You're not going to win every game. But when you do win, it feels pretty good. So I encourage you to try it out and share any other challenges again that you might have with us in the comments section. But with that, we get to the end of the episode, which, we don't really have a plan for the end of the episode. Last time we had unrelated stories and whatnot and all that kind of stuff. We didn't do that in the episode 1, so we can just say bye.
We can if you want. We can.
Do you want to tell an unrelated story, John?
Sure. And I got hundreds of them all the time. I don't know that anybody's ever interested though.
It's okay.
So
if they made it this far, man, you might as well stick to the end.
Okay, let's go, man. So yeah, this past week we had work and family and all that stuff, man, and why the videos weren't going out quite as regularly and everything. Dude, I swear to God, man, I love my kids. I love all my kids. I do.
You start off with that. It's not a good lead in.
Why is it every time I want to go record and everything? Hey, Dad, I'm 5 minutes from the house. Can I come hang out? Sure. Yeah, you can.
Sure, yeah.
I'm going to have to go record. And then I get up here and record and make sure that they're off camera, like if they're hanging out up here watching.
Yeah.
And then I'll finish a game. I'll go take a break. And then they're, okay, I'm going to leave because do you know you sing when you play?
What?
If I'm playing just sometimes and I'm just recording just to kind of get stuff set up on OBS and stuff, and it's not a game that I'm going to use.
Okay.
Because like if I'm trying to get used to a deck and I'm just recording to make sure everything's good, I'll have Spotify on instead of Epidemic Sound. And I guess
you just sing along.
I guess so, bro. I guess so.
I love that.
I guess so.
That's awesome.
No, you wouldn't. They leave. They leave. That's how bad it is.
Look, man, I love music. I would go for it. That's awesome.
But yeah, kids,
dude,
man, constantly.
This week has been ridiculous. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, we're recording this episode. It's going up the week after we record it. So this will have been last week as we're recording, and it's just been a mess. Work stuff, family stuff, to your point. Like, it's been crazy. So all good. I love that you sing. That's funny.
Bro.
What's your favorite song, John?
My favorite song of all time?
Do you have one? That's a big question.
Bro. Man. Oh my God. Yeah, it is a big question.
And if you don't have one, it's cool.
Probably Cohen's Hallelujah, but
okay,
sung by Jeff Buckley.
Yeah, it's a solid one.
Yeah, Jeff Buckley did that song right, man.
Yeah, he did. Absolutely did. I Know How to Speak by Manchester Orchestra, by the way, is mine.
Oh yeah, I know.
Unrelated. I know you know that. They don't know that.
It's in the podcast from last season. Yeah, when we did the 21 questions.
Oh fuck yeah. Oh, I got to do that to you. Oh my God, I forgot about that. Hey,
dude, I figured he was just like, man, I get it. He's the pilot of this channel.
No. It's 50 split, man. Well,
yeah, man. No, Hallelujah is probably one of them, man.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I just love music in general. I got everything on my Spotify playlist. It's except for polka.
Yeah. I'm not a country guy either. I really hate country. Sorry about it.
I can't say that. It's not my preferred music to listen and chill to. I'm more of a rock, grunge, classic rock, I guess is what people would call it now. But yeah, I've got some country go-tos.
All right, I have one of two stories. One is very in line with what we've already talked about, so I can talk about that. The other one, and I'm letting you decide, John, because you know the big news, which would be the other story, which I could announce today.
No, that's gotta be a Me Not On channel, and I think it should probably be a setting co-host for that one, because that's big, man. That's big. So? Yeah, I think.
I don't know. This feels like the place to do it, but that's fine.
No, not at the tail end here, man. How many people made it to the end of this? No, man, make it a short. Make it a short, even, and yeah, like I said, have a different co-host for that one.
Nah, it's got to be you. It's going to be, it'll be right after. So this podcast episode is going to be right after a very big event and that whole thing. And so that's the only reason I was thinking about it, but we'll go with the safe story, which is, and again, you know this, but a couple weeks ago I released, for those of you who don't know, I'm very musically focused also, very hobbyist all around. And recorded a few songs. They're super chill, lo-fi tracks, nothing all that extravagant. But I finally got over the hump of actually releasing some songs over on Spotify, Apple Music, all that kind of stuff. And if you've been watching any of the shorts, you've actually heard one of the songs, because Ghost Talk is one of the songs, and that's the one that I use for all the shorts lately. And so if you're interested in that, go hang out and listen to it. It's just super chill music. But I wanted to tell you, and I haven't sent you this song yet, but I finished recording. God, I stayed up late one night and finished recording a little song that was slightly heavy-ish. It's not like a super heavy song by any means, but it's like a drop D song. It's more, in line with the Norma Jean-ish sound, which I like. And I was so stoked on it. And I finally got it. There was a part in this song. This means nothing to anybody unless you've recorded music before, but there was a part at the very end of the song, and again, I'll send it to you, that took me, it had to be like 30 or 40 takes just to get this one part on guitar down, because what I learned in this process is I'm less good at guitar than I thought I was. And it was really annoying. And so I'm very proud of it, because it took me fucking forever to get it, but I finally got it. And then I had to double it, which took me another 20 tries. So I'll send it to you, John. And if anybody else wants to listen, let me know, because I can send a link out. But it was a blast. It was so fun to record music, and I've really been learning a lot in that arena. And so I'm stoked about it.
I wish I could, man. I wish I could. Definitely send it, man. I'll listen to it. But music talent has never been my thing. And my dad played country bands on albums and stuff too.
That's awesome.
Plays double steel guitar.
Ooh.
And yeah, man, my favorite thing by him is Sleepwalk, which is an all instrumental. If you guys have ever seen La Bamba, and when the brother's running up the mountain after Richie Valens dies, spoiler alert, shouldn't be. That song with the high pitched twang on the steel and everything is Sleepwalk. And man, what an amazing instrumental. Yeah. But he plays it for me every now and then, man. It's just amazing.
That's awesome, dude.
I wish I had those talents, man. I wish I had those talents. You guys, man. You guys kill me with that.
Music is a blast. I started drums when I was in high school and picked up guitar and bass and all that stuff now. So, it's a blast.
I was in grade school Christmas plays.
Hell yes. That sounds so appropriate for you.
That was it, bro. That was it.
And on that note, yes, we found the ending. Guys, thank you so much for watching this episode. Again, take the 1 mana challenge if you want to. It's a blast. Give us some other challenge ideas for future episodes. But until the next time, guys, thank you so much for watching. It's been a glorious day. My name is Kevin.
My name is John. Stay safe.
Yes,
Much love. Peace.
Bye.
There we go.
We did it.